This presentation is really regarding the college process. I know a lot of our seniors do go to college, but there are also, some of our seniors that want to do a gap year, military, vocational school. So that's more of an individual process. So I would encourage those students to make an appointment with their school counselor regarding that. So let's get into kind of a little bit of housekeeping with some documents. So these three documents are things that need to be done before we can approve and send the transcripts and everything. So the first is your student's transcript. It's in eSchool. You should have access to it. We highly recommend, your child take a look at their transcript, make sure everything looks good. Their counselor did go through all the transcripts and make, double check, but just in case, it's always good to have another set of eyes looking at it. The next thing is the parent transcript release. This has been sent out a few times by Ms. Connell to families through email. It's also on the website under college information, under the counseling tab. So this is something that we absolutely need before we send out transcripts. If we don't have this, we won't be able to send out a transcript. Ms. Connell, can you go back to the last slide? Thank you. The next one is diploma name. I know Ms. Connell just sent this out, I believe, yesterday. This also needs to be filled out for graduation diploma purposes. So that is also can be found on the website as well as in your emails. So getting into like the nitty gritty of everything and what we've been doing, plus, things coming up. So obviously, a lot of you know that we switched from Naviance to SchoolLinks over the summer, early in May, June time. We are really happy with SchoolLinks, and we think it's been great for the students. There's a lot more student interaction on this, which has been really, really great to see. So we first introduced SchoolLinks back when they were juniors. In June time, we onboarded all of them to make the process a little smoother. And then we just went into classes about 2 weeks ago to go over the whole college admissions process through SchoolLinks. So what they need to do, how they request recommendation letters, how they connect their SchoolLinks account to the Common application. And I believe all students should have done this in the class unless they were absent. But most students have been able to do this pretty easily. As SchoolLinks is very user-friendly, which is nice. We also have ongoing college representative visits. These are happening throughout the day, every day. We've had really, really great turnout from students, so that's another big win. They're really engaging with the representatives. They're asking questions. They're getting to know the schools. Today we had University of Delaware, and it was a huge turnout. Which was surprising. So, they're definitely showing up, which is nice. Moving on to recommendation letters, there's two different recommendation letters. So a teacher letter, that is, we require students to really ask the teacher in person before they request on SchoolLinks. This is just because it's important for them to ask in person, make sure that that teacher is willing to write them a letter before requesting on SchoolLinks. Once they've asked them in person, we did show them how to do this on SchoolLinks, so they should know how. But if they forgot, I know there's a lot going on in this process, and some things can be overwhelming. I would recommend that they stop by to see their counselor, and we can show them again. It's very simple, but there's a lot going on, so we totally understand. The other one is our letters, so the counselor letters. We use the rec packet, which is also found on the website. This really helps us write the best letter that we can. A lot of times parents have really great insights that we may not know, and it really does help us. So we upload our letters separately, so they don't have to be requested. We upload those, we fill out a school report. So that's all set, but the rec packet is needed for us to be writing a letter. The one letter I didn't mention on here is outside recommenders. We don't always suggest this. I think this is very individual. But those are outside. Those are through Common App. They're not through School Links because they're not staff at Pleasantville High School, most likely. Moving on to counselor meetings, we've been very busy in our office. Getting to meet with all of our seniors. We're encouraging every senior to meet with us, go over their college lists, going through their common application together, having a second set of eyes on it, maybe reading some supplement questions or essays. So make sure that, if your student has questions, they should absolutely be stopping by our office and scheduling an appointment with us. We have a new office assistant, Mrs. Purcell. She's awesome. She's been so great. And so I really encourage that your students stop by if they have any questions. And we're all happy to work one-on-one with students within the college process, and we encourage that. I just wanted to mention college campus visits. So each student gets 4 days in their junior year and 4 days in their senior year to go outside of the school and visit a college campus. So this is a great way to get out there and really, visualize the campus. So, we definitely encourage, a couple campus visits if the student hasn't seen it and is applying. And then finally, the college essay. I know this is very stressful for some students. We have been able to get Wendy Freed again this year, and she has been very, very helpful in meeting with our seniors. The seniors have been really receptive to this. She is busy. As soon as she walks in our door, she is very busy. So students are really taking advantage of this, which is so nice to see. A lot of them are giving great feedback. And then also in English 12 and AP literature classes, the college essay is being worked on in there as well. So I'm not going to go too much into financial aid because, as you can see, we are going to be having a financial aid night to be determined at this point. The FAFSA, for those of you who have done the FAFSA before, usually the date is much earlier in October. It becomes available usually October 1st, but they have made some changes this year, and it will now be available December 1st. So our financial aid night will be coming up. You will definitely receive an email regarding that shortly. So I definitely recommend attending that if you have any questions about financial aid. Like I said, the FAFSA application opens December 1st. And the CSS profile is something that is also goes along with the FAFSA. Some schools require it, some schools don't. And then everything else is really ways of paying for college, financing college. So highly recommend attending the financial aid night. It will give you a lot of information. We have someone from Iona College that presents that night. So, and he does a really great job. So.
Can I jump in for one quick second? Pertinent to the previous slide. So hi, everybody. My name is Rebecca Castellano. Just really quick, just going back to the earlier slide regarding letters of recommendation, a question was posed regarding what the student's responsibility is after they've asked for the letter of recommendation in person and then submitted that request through School Links. Does the student need to keep following up? The answer to that is no, you don't. You ask, you follow up, you get the letter. The teachers will get links, or they'll get they'll get an email notice saying that the student has requested their letter formally. And at that point, the teacher will go ahead and write that letter of recommendation, upload it to the portal, complete the teacher evaluation form, which also is part of the application, and submit it on the student's behalf. So that will happen. The student's responsibility is to make sure that they know how many letters of recommendation, typically only one is really needed, and to ask those teachers in a timely manner, giving anywhere between a week or 2 weeks or more. 10 days are nice, so that teachers have ample time to get that done. So once that process is started, the teachers are great about meeting deadlines. At the end of the day, I think one piece that we really like to stress is no one needs to wait for letters of recommendation in order to apply to schools. The utmost in an application is the importance of the student's application. The student must meet deadline, not the teachers, not the counselors. Although we will, it's not our work that should hinder the student's application. Students need to apply when they're ready after they've reviewed it, so that they can move forward in the process, and all the other paperwork will join it once the application is submitted. So thought I'd throw that out there, and let's keep going.
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely that's definitely important. So obviously this process is very stressful for students, parents, you know, it's a lot, right? So I think a lot of questions we get is, you know, from parents, how can we support our child, right, through this process? So really the student should be in the driver's seat for this whole process. I think it's important that they're understanding what they're putting out. They're really doing the whole Common App and the supplement questions. Their voice is coming through on their application. It's very important. A lot of times admissions counselors can tell when that's not been the case. So we recommend, you know, the parent support piece is absolutely, you know, critical throughout this process, just because students do get very stressed through this. There's a lot of, you know, moving parts. So we really do recommend to kind of be the sounding board, you know, for your child, and really listen to what they're saying, you know, whether that's, you know, they're nervous about getting in somewhere or whatever it is, you know, listen to them and guide them through it, but let them, you know, really take control of the process. And then, you know, the time management, deadlines, every school is different. There's different deadlines. There's different admissions dates. So that's a really big one. I think, you know, seniors have their classes, they have sports, clubs, whatever else, internships, you know, everything. So we understand that, and I'm sure you guys do as well. So, you know, that time management and deadline piece is really important, to make sure that they're, you know, ready to hit submit when they need to be. And then really having open conversations regarding finances, location, programs of study. You want to make sure you're on the same page as your child. I sometimes have, you know, a student that wants to go out to California and a parent that's like, no, I don't want you to go far, which I completely understand. So I think just being on the same page, really about that. And then, you know, finances, it's very important to have that conversation regarding, you know, what we can afford, what maybe maybe you need money to be able to go to this school, you know, whatever it is. It's important that students really know the expectations going into this, and they're not going to be left kind of standing, you know, making a decision about if they need to take out, you know, a lot of money in loans. And then finally, really just enjoying this experience. I know it can be a really stressful experience, but it's supposed to be enjoyable, you know, finding it's the next chapter of their life, and finding a school that's a really good fit for them, that they're really passionate about, and, you know, works for you as well, and the family. It takes time, but it's supposed to be enjoyable. I know sometimes it may not feel like that, especially at this, you know, crunch time, but really that's the goal. So just a few upcoming dates that we have. So obviously I mentioned counselor meetings. Those will be continuing. Again, if your child has not met with your school counselor, their school counselor, I would highly recommend that they do, just to touch base. It's important that we know and teachers know their earliest deadlines for their school, so that we can get their letters done on time, you know, and just answering those questions. Sometimes having a second set of eyes on something is really helpful. And yeah, so I would definitely suggest your child meet with their school counselor as soon as they can, especially with the upcoming dates of October 15th, which is the earliest deadline, and November 1st. They're approaching quickly. So, oh, there we go. And then college representative visits, they are continuing. As you can see, I have a little shameless plug for our Instagram at the bottom here. This is our Instagram. I really try to post as much as I can. So I do post the upcoming representative visits every single Friday, just to give the student. I know a lot of students follow us. I know a lot of parents also follow us. So just to have a go-to place to have all of the visits. They're also posted on Schoology. They're also posted right outside on our office door and on my door as well. And I'm sure a lot of the other counselors have them on their doors as well. So they see it everywhere. So if they want to go, if they're applying to a college, we really highly suggest that they attend that representative visit, ask questions that they have, really get to know the school, and any application questions they have can also be answered there too. We do have School-Links. I know School-Links is new and it took us a little bit to get up and going, but we were really trying to prioritize the seniors just because we knew the deadlines were approaching. And now that we're excited to onboard parents. I know some of you have already been onboarded, which is awesome. I hope you are enjoying School-Links as much as we are. But we are having an in-person training for School-Links at the PCO meeting on October 11th at 7 p.m. So if you want a little more insight into how School-Links works and you know what we use it for, I'd highly suggest going to that in-person event. And then, like I mentioned, financial aid night, TBD, we're not sure yet. So you will definitely get an email regarding that once the date has been finalized. And then NCAA Division I and Division II. This is something that Mr. Marone helps out with. So if you have a student that wants to go Division I or Division II, reach out to their counselor, or the student can stop by and we'll get that process going for them. And then the last thing is School-Links has a college decisions column. So this once students start getting college decisions back, they're going to go into School-Links and just let us know whether they accepted, denied, deferred, waitlisted, whatever it is. And you can even upload your acceptance letter, which has been really helpful. It's really great to be able to read that, just because I've had students in the past that have gotten like $25,000 scholarship money and they didn't realize it. So you know, having that up there, it definitely does help. And then again, our Instagram, feel free to follow us. We do try and post as much as we can, what we're up to in our office, and deadlines and meetings and events, anything like that. We try and post as much as possible. So give us a follow if you're already not. All right, should we go on to some of the questions, Ms. Castellano? Feel free to write in the chat if there's anything that I didn't go over that you have questions on.
So at present, I don't have any open questions. I think we answered the one question regarding the student letters of recommendation or the teacher letters of recommendation. You know, I think the big piece right now for some seniors is trying to figure out what schools and how many schools to apply to. And there's just no easy answer. So we always encourage students to come in and meet with their school counselor. Even if they're working with an outside counselor, it's always great to kind of circle the wagon, so to speak, to make sure that everybody's on the same page so that your student is as well supported as they can be as we're moving their paperwork from our hands to the hands of the colleges and universities, and that the lists are balanced and that people are feeling good about the schools and the work that they're doing, because it can sometimes be overwhelming when there's so much coming at them in such a short amount of time. I also want to speak to deadlines and how there are multiple waves of deadlines, and we're hitting our earliest one in a couple of weeks, which is October 15th. It doesn't mean that you necessarily should be applying for that date. It's just a wave of schools that have that early time, and then come November and December and even into January. So we will meet students where they are and where they need to be in terms of those cycles.
Yeah, and just mentioning off of the private college counselor piece, we understand that students do have private college counselors, and that's okay with us. We just really want to make sure that students are also working with us in tandem, because we know our process. A lot of private counselors don't know our specific process. A lot of different schools have different processes for this. So make sure, even if your student is working with someone else, that they are communicating with their school counselor. That open communication is extremely important in this process.
Absolutely. So a great question about early action: is the deadline to let the college know if they'll be attending also expedited? The answer is not necessarily no. It depends on what. With the early decision, we know that you're locked into a choice. So once you do ED, that is the one and done, you will be attending that school. With the early action, the beauty of the early action is you find out early on, typically anywhere between a month, maybe a month and a half after you apply, whether or not you've been accepted. At that point, most schools will respect the May 1st universal acceptance date. That's the date that most schools will require that students let them know where they will be attending. So applying November 1st, but still submitting your choice by May 1st.
I want to just touch a little bit upon the teacher letter of recommendation. To be clear, through the School Links portal, unlike what some students experienced in Naviance, you don't just ask a teacher for a letter of recommendation and it applies to all schools.
Right.
When you're on School Links, the student actually has a separate portal page for each school that they're applying to. And on that page, it'll tell them what they need to do to complete the entire application, whether or not there's scores that need to be sent, whether or not there's 1 or 2 letters of recommendation, and also the information that the counselor needs to send. The student can track the progress of all of those documents through the individual college on their application manager. I know this is a little different to hear and not visualize, so I do encourage you to go to the PCO presentation. However, I want to be clear that students can't just ask a teacher and then in general it applies to every school. They actually need to make the technological request on each school they're applying to. And then the teacher writes the letter and it gets connected to any school on the student's case file that they're asking the teacher to write for. But if you've asked a teacher to write for one school, it will not automatically apply to all of those other schools unless the student goes into that individual college application and requests the teacher to write for them. And this is all through School Links. Teacher letters of recommendation do not go through Common App. The Common App is strictly an application to the college, and it's just the student's information that is sent. Everything else through School Links that comes from the school is teacher letters of recommendation, the student transcript, the school profile, and the counselor's evaluation and form. So I just wanted to make sure that that's clear. I will send out tomorrow, in addition to the information about tonight's presentation, a small video that School Links provides about the common application, about the college application, so students and families can see what that process looks like and what all the individual requirements are. So that's why sometimes it can get confusing when students apply to multiple schools, because there's a lot of individual requirements for each school they're applying to. So on their application manager, they'll be able to manage what they've sent, what the teacher sent, and what the counselor has sent. And if it's not all updated, that's where the communication with the counselor and teacher needs to be had. So just wanted to clarify that.
So a question was just posed regarding, mentioned earlier that only one letter of recommendation is useful. Can you please expand on that? Wouldn't 2 to 3 recommendations work better for the student? So This is where that application manager that Mrs. Connell was just speaking about is extraordinarily helpful. The answer is it depends on the school. So some schools will require one letter, some schools will require two letters. Some schools will give the option of multiple letters, some schools won't. So you really need to know what those schools are looking for in terms of applying and sending as many letters as you can in hopes that it will really enhance the application. I want you to really think about where those letters are coming from and why those letters are important. The teacher letter of recommendation really needs to speak to who that student is in the classroom, what kind of student they were, how did they engage with the material, so that the college gets a sense as to who they're going to be bringing onto their campus. This is why we ask students to really think about who they're asking for those letters. Sometimes it feels like, well, they need to know me from a bunch of different places. And it really depends on what the school is requiring. And the amount of time these applications counselors or these admissions counselors will really have to read their applications. Admissions counselors are reading hundreds of applications, if not thousands of applications during an admissions cycle. So when you're pulling together an application, you want something that's going to shine. And if there are too many letters in there, they might not be reading the right one, or they just might be reading the first one that gets to them. So that's why we say, let's be thoughtful about who you're asking and how many you're sending. It's also nice to have a couple or one letter of recommendation kind of on the side in case something with admissions goes to deferment, meaning you didn't make it in your early round, but maybe you're being looked at for the regular round. And so we'll send in your grades midway through the year. And if that other letter can speak to who you are in a different way, that might be a really good way of bolstering that application in the second look around. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, and just going off of that, admissions counselors have on average, about 7 minutes to review a student's full application. So that means letters of recommendation from teacher, counselor letter, that means application, college essay, supplement questions if they have them, activities and extracurriculars. So there's not, the reason we suggest, unless the school requires otherwise, one letter of recommendation from a teacher is due to that, and really, making sure that they're getting what they want to across. So, and then the counselor letter, we speak to the student from multiple different angles. So that's why that rec packet is really important, so that we can, write the best letter that we can. Yeah, so that's just to add.
There's also a clarification question about, is every school on School Links, but not every school on the Common App? So let me just clarify the two different portals. The Common Application is actually the student's application. There's two facets of it. One is the common part, which is all the student data information. And then there's the actual college part of it, which the student would list all the schools that they're applying to, and there might be supplementary recommendations or information that they're asking on that particular application. The student submits the fee and submits the application, and that's through Common App. There may be some schools that don't participate in Common Application. They might use their own application. And so therefore, the student is applying directly through the university on their application. There's also another type of application. Help me, Mrs. Castellano, I'm having a brain freeze.
Coalition.
Thank you. Coalition, which is a somewhat new type of application that was put together a few years ago by a group of colleges that wanted to include additional information that the Common App doesn't have. So the application to the college can come in different ways, like Common App, Coalition, or through the individual school. School Links is our school's platform to submit school-related documents that support the application. So that would be any of the teacher's letters of recommendation, the student transcript, our school's profile, and that's a profile of the school and the previous graduation class. So it gives information about grade point averages. It gives information about AP scores. It gives information about courses that we teach and special programs. And if you want to look at that, that's also on our school's website. And then the last part, which, for the counselor, is their letter or of recommendation or evaluation, as well as a form that they submit with some specific questions that the colleges ask of the counselor. So there's 2 different portals that are used. Both of them are linked together electronically. When the student submits their application, all the supporting documents are attached to it and then are sent to the college. The college then opens up that file, downloads the information, and then uploads it to the student file. More often than not, when that occurs, students will get an email from the college saying, we've received your application. This is what's missing, or this is, where your application is. It's in review or what have you. And the student will be asked to set up an individual portal to that specific college. So whatever email a student includes on their common application is something that they should be routinely looking at. Those emails are going to be very important on following up on any questions or documents that the colleges are looking for. And students are the only one that receive those emails. Counselors do not receive them. Parents do not receive them. Teachers do not receive them. So if a student doesn't go in and regularly check their email, there's a likelihood that important documentation that the school is looking for has not been received. So even though they know I've sent my SAT scores, or if I asked Mrs. Connell to send my letter of recommendation and it shows on the portal it's done, life happens. Things don't always get received. If the college is now asking you to please follow up and you haven't, you will have an incomplete file and your application will not be reviewed. So it's so important for students to regularly check that email account, to set up the portal for every school that they're applying to, and to individually manage their application process. So when we talk about keeping a list that's reasonable, it's for these reasons that we say that. There's a lot of detail that's involved. There are deadlines that need to be met. And we realize that students are also attending classes, participating in sports, they have jobs outside, and they live a life. So we want to work together. The most important thing that we can do to have the student be successful is to communicate and to make sure we all have the information that we need. Is there anything else that Ms. Bradley or Ms. Castellano would like to share?
No, I think that we've kind of hit all the highlights in this presentation, and this is an ongoing conversation. We started this work last year with you. We'll continue it through the year. And please, if you have questions that are particular to your student, to your family, we invite you to give us a call so that we can conference with you and have those conversations with you. If your student hasn't seen their counselor, we urge the students to start making appointments so that they can start seeing their counselor, so that we can work together and make sure that everybody's on the same page and feeling well supported as they go through this. I'm thrilled to hear that students are taking advantage of the essay workshops, so let's keep going with that. And thank you all for a great night. And if there are any other questions, we encourage you to ask them now or send them to us anytime via email and we'll get back to you. And that's it for me. What about you, Ms. Bradley?
Yeah, I think you said it all. Thank you everybody for joining. We really appreciate it. We hope you got some good information from this. And like Ms. Castellano said, if you have any further questions, feel free to email us and we'd be happy to help. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you so much. Have a good night. And this will be posted on our website for those families who want to preview it or share it with other people.